here this afternoon. My name is, we're going to just do some introductions. I have a sort of a short statement I just want to go through just so everybody's aligned and together, and hopefully it's something you've heard at least a couple of times before. Most importantly, thanks for being here. I appreciate you've done a good amount of work and earned your way here. So anyway, my name is Kevin Harrington. I'm the Director of New Product Development for Hollister. Hollister is a mid-sized medical device company. We're based about 40 miles north of Chicago. I do not work for a clothing company, which to my children's chagrin, I'm not that cool. Okay? But I always learn something when I come here, and we'll move right ahead. Okay? Where's
Allison Howie. I work for Energy Corporation. It's an electric utility provider. I've been in-house counsel for over 18 years doing commercial litigation, but now I'm part of the Ethics and Compliance Department, and my title is Management Counsel of Information Governance.
I'm Sabrina Devin. I'm with the Ethics and Compliance Initiative, and it's an organization that combined two very old ethics and compliance organizations. It was the Ethics and Compliance Officer Association, which is 23 years old, helping members in the field, and with the Ethics Research Center, which is just over 95 years, or 93, I'm sorry, years, doing research in the field, and I'm just excited to be here and to be part of the new process.
Is that all the time delay?
I think I got it.
We value if you would introduce yourselves. It'll probably be still another couple minutes before we start.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm Tim Kingsbury. I'm a student at WU. I'm a third-year student. I'm an MIS major there. I don't know if we want to get into interesting facts too much, but next year is my last year of college, and I'm going to spend it traveling around the world. I'm going to Japan in the fall, and then Europe in the spring, so that's pretty exciting stuff.
My name is Joshua England. I also go to West Virginia University. I'm a management major, and for interesting facts, I will be competing my first full Ironman this summer, and so I hope to knock that out.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Good.
Hi, my name is Deanna Gandy. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I currently attend West Virginia University. I am studying business administration with an emphasis in marketing, and so I guess something about me is that this summer I will be interning with the Limited Brands Company in Columbus, Ohio, and I love fashion and ethics and business. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you all for having me.
I'm Taylor Vansko. I'm a graduating senior at West Virginia University studying human resource management and political science, and I'm going to law school in August in Oregon.
Really good. Does anyone have any compelling schedule that they have to be somewhere right away after we're done here?
No.
Okay. We need to honor time limits, but we can be a little more sort of relaxed as we move through things. So I'm going to read a statement. I'll sort of describe. Hopefully you've heard this before. I'm actually starting to get good at it, but it'll sort of explain for everyone just sort of the format, the approach, shared expectations, and so on. Okay. So we're during the full presentation phase of the competition. In this part of the competition, you are taking on a fictional business identity, and you are assigning a fictional business identity to us, the judges, as well. So be forthright and share that with us as you begin. Okay, please make sure everyone knows who you are and who we are as well as we begin. Okay, you'll have 25 minutes nominally. If you need additional, we have allowance for additional 5 minutes. 30 minutes in total for the presentation phase. We'll look for you to describe the legal, financial, and ethical dimensions of the problem and to recommend a solution that passes muster on all 3 counts again, financial, ethical, and legal. During this time, teams will be uninterrupted, okay? So we will not interrupt you. Please use whatever flow and transitions you like. We're not going to ask questions. We will not make comments aside from what we write down on our sheets and so on, okay? Thereafter, when you're finished, the judges will ask your questions. We may use all 20 minutes of that period. We'll have 20 minutes. We'll reset the timer, and we'll talk about timers here in just a moment. I will ask the first question and then turn it over to the other judges During the question and answer period, both you and the judges, we will stay in character throughout, consistent with your assignments as we begin. After the Q&A, the judges will give you feedback outside the role playing, so we'll pause, we'll breathe as necessary, and then we'll have some give and take as well. Okay, if you want to give us feedback, you're welcome to do so, okay? Though that is not part of our program. I get it all the time at home as well, okay? Some important things to keep in mind. The ethical aspects of your analysis are the most important part. However, these should be described in a simple, practical, common sense fashion, using technical, philosophical terminology, or basing your argument on religious or theological grounds will be considered a significant weakness. Similarly, any member of the team reading his or her part will also be considered a weakness in the context of how we're doing the assessment. Although you may use notes, during the presentation, every member of the team must have some sort of speaking role. Okay, any questions? Does that make sense? Very good. Okay, let's talk about timers for a moment. Part of my role, I'm over before, but this is the keep time. So I will be doing that so that I get this in the work. So let me show you. You can do so if you like. If you want, I can show you. So your timer is going to work. Push that. I'm sorry. It's that. So what we'll do is stop start. We'll get that. We'll just set this up. Okay.
So that should fix it. Let's wait for that 10 seconds to see what's happening. We just turned off the
It's technology.
Not kind of like children. Okay, so we get set for 30. We just stop and start it here. Okay. So I'll be doing the same thing right here.
Do it again?
Yeah.
Okay. So the alarm goes off in 30 minutes, and I'll just reset the 23 for Q&A. Okay. I don't think that's complicated enough. Okay.
There, make it like 100.
Very good. Okay, so I think we're ready to begin.
Yeah, I think the PowerPoint's going to walk that. All right. Thank you for meeting us today, ladies and gentlemen of the HP Executive Committee. We wanted to thank you for inviting our consulting group to come in and talk with you guys today about the potential of entering the 3D market. We're honored to be selected to be the consultant who's going to develop a plan for you guys in terms of entering this market legally, financially, and ethically. I want to state that this is a great time to get into the 3D printing market, as it is starting to grow very rapidly at this point in time. I wanted to quickly introduce myself and members of my group. I am Tim. I'm going to be talking about a little bit of what 3D printing is, just so we're all on the same page. I'm going to introduce the topic, and then I'm also going to wrap it up at the end. This is Josh. He is going to be talking about the ethics of 3D printing, which will be in the latter end of the presentation. That is Deanna, who will be going immediately after me. She's going to talk about the financial opportunities of 3D printing. And then that is Taylor, and she is going to be talking about the legal implications of 3D printing immediately after Deanna. So we'd like to start with just a quick video to make sure everyone's on the same page about what 3D printing is and what its capabilities are. So I'm just going to start this up and hope it works. All right, if you can see that. This man is getting on his computer to design or to print a 3D printed object. And what he's doing is he's getting on and downloading a computer-aided design, which we refer to as a CAD. And what this is basically just a blueprint for what is going to be printed from this printer. So he's gone online and he has printed it, and the video has skipped. But because the PowerPoint is seemingly unreliable, I am just going to kind of explain to you what it is without the aid of it. So basically, it's put in this machine that looks like a small manufacturing machine, and that machine is filled with materials such as plastic, resin, metal. There's a lot of different things that it can be. And what the machine will do is it will go layer by layer. See, that's the visual model of the thing, and this is the 3D printer itself. And it's going to go layer by layer here and create the downloaded design. So what you'll quickly notice is that this is not like 2D printing. It is very, very different. 2D printing, you just have paper, you're printing a report or something of that nature. But what this is doing is it's taking actual materials and creating a real 3D object that you can hold in your hands and use just like any other functional object. So it's just kind of showing you the mechanisms right now, and it's creating this vase layer by layer here with this advanced technology. The printer in this particular video costs about $2,750. And it's just taking the plastic material here and putting it down layer by layer. And now normally this process takes several hours. It's not a quick process by any means at this point in time. It's very slow, very methodical, but luckily this video is only a minute and 40, so you can see real quickly that, well, I'll kind of skip there at the end, but you can see that he had a real object at the end, a real vase. So what I'd like to do now is have Josh hand out a couple of things that we brought from WVU Creative Arts that were made with a 3D printer. Now, these objects are made with either plastic or ceramics. The ceramic one is very brittle, so try to be careful. But the point of this is to see that it creates very tactile objects that you can hold in your hand, and the capabilities are quite numerous in the variety of things you can create. So this technology didn't begin as something to create plastics or something like that. It began in the healthcare industry, and the thought was that you could create real human skin or organs using a 3D printer so that you didn't have to go and take it from another human being, which would help enormously when you had a shortage of organs such as a liver. And this picture is actually a human holding skin, which is something that a 3D printer is very capable of making. Now, these printers are a little bit more expensive than what we're aiming for in the consumer market, but they're very much real, and they're very much going to have a large part to play in the healthcare in the future. What we're looking more at is this small parts printing, which is, we have some Legos up there to kind of show you what that would be like. But think of an example where you have, or maybe you're making a desk of some sort and you've lost a screw, you've misplaced it, or maybe it just didn't come with your desk that you're trying to make. Well, you could possibly go on your 3D printer and simply print out the missing screw rather than have to deal with going to the store and placing it. Obviously, this is very beneficial in terms of time saving, in terms of the company having a service department. So the implications are very impressive, but in terms of an ethical dilemma, the main problem is that with this technology, there's an increased possibility that you could create counterfeit purses, counterfeit objects basically with them, because you can create exact replicas. And additionally, the other dilemma is that you can create dangerous objects with a 3D printer. Up here we have a gun. This is an all-plastic gun created using a 3D printer. It has absolutely no metal parts, so it is undetectable by any sort of scanner. It is also able to fire like a real gun. It is very much dangerous. Currently, a plastic gun without any metal parts can fire up to 5 rounds. However, they are extremely volatile and tend to backfire on the user, unlike metal guns, which have a significantly higher safety rate. They tend not to explode in your hands, but these ones, as of yet, do not. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hand off to Yana. She's going to talk a little bit about the financial implications of entering this market. Yana, if you'd like to take it.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the board. If you could excuse me for one moment, I just want to escape from this, because when you're talking about money, it's important that you're able to see exactly what it is that you're talking about. you all for your patience. As Tim stated, 3D printing, if you did not know, it is an emerging market. And while I know many of you right now are thinking, well, it's been around for quite some time now, you know, I don't see what the big deal about it is increasing in demand in today's world dramatically. And that is all the more reason why it would be beneficial for your company to take on this endeavor. The current consumer can purchase a 3D printer for between $600 to $5,000, and that is, hypothetically speaking, that you have a consumer who's willing to spend that amount of money on it. However, as I said before, with the market emerging and the increase in demand, that price range could drop dramatically, and so therefore we could see many more consumers purchasing 3D printers at a much lower price in the future. The return on investment for 3D printing is quite a rewarding one for both you, the company, and your consumer, which is always really nice because we all want to benefit and make sure we have happy consumers and customers while we're doing so as well. And what I mean by that is basically a consumer can print just about anything that they possibly need in their home, in their life, whether it be mechanical or a toy for their child. And what that means is the consumer will be more likely to purchase your product if they see that this can save them money in their own home and time. Another important part about 3D printing is the fact that a machine can basically repay the money that the consumer invests in it in less than a year. And what I mean by that is the amount of objects that you print can save you thousands of dollars whenever it comes to making those purchases of maybe your dishware or screws or just your simple household objects that you wouldn't think that you could walk into your kitchen and create in just a matter of time. Saves you a lot of money and time. We want to take the razor blade model, which is something that the printing industry is very familiar with. And what I mean by that is basically we want to use the CAD designs and, similar to your iTunes marketplace, have them be sold by the consumers, and they can buy them, sell them, or trade them in this marketplace. And the CAD designs would be a huge return on revenue because we are also giving the consumers a bit of the money, and we are also going to have money as well from this investment. Something that I think that we should all keep in mind, though, is with this CAD marketplace, we will be able to decrease the amount of counterfeit objects that may be put out there. As Tim stated before, that's something that a lot of people worry about with 3D printing, is you're creating objects that can potentially be replicated and cause a lot of companies to lose money. And so therefore, if we were able to partner with designer brands who may be printing purses or different toys and items like that, we could potentially save them from having to encounter these issues. And that's something to keep in mind while we have a nice return on revenue and we make our customers happy and our shareholders at the same time. Next up, we have a very conservative graph here, and I want to emphasize on the conservative part because in 2014, over 100,000 3D printers were sold, and Gartner Inc. forecasted that that amount is going to double by the end of this year. And so with that being said, as you can see, they have here that in 2016 it's projected to be $3.1 billion and then jump to $5.2 billion as far as the price of the printers. But like I said, it could double, and so those numbers could increase tremendously within the next couple of years. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the most important part that we are looking for whenever it comes to going into this market is figuring out a way that we can optimize our profit while ethically getting into this market. And so I'm going to pass it over to Taylor, because with every great idea and new endeavor comes liability. So Taylor, with our legal implications.
Thank you, Deanna. As Deanna said, the 3D printing industry is not new. It began in the 1980s, and with the release of all of the original patents for the technology and the knowledge and the materials used in 2013, we've seen a huge boom with a lot of companies trying to grab up new patents and new technology, or try to start making products with the old technology with the release of the patents. And with that boom, we've seen new laws and regulations come into play in regards to the 3D printing industry, and with concern with society and an increase in competition. So 2 laws that affect 3D printing are the Undetectable Firearms Act and the Intellectual Property laws. The Undetectable Firearms Act was implemented in 1988, and it has faced a recent renewal, 10-year renewal. The Firearms Act prevents any manufacturing of plastic guns. So like Tim said, a plastic gun can fire up to 5 times, but it backfires. So that is why the law was in place, to prevent safety, or to encourage safety, and to prevent people from getting through a metal detector with a plastic gun, such in places like airports or government offices, because you can put a plastic gun on your body or in your purse and carry it through a metal detector because it has no metal in it. And then the intellectual property laws are not directed at the 3D printing industry, but it raises some questions about who owns the product. So is it the person who creates the design for the product, such as the base that you saw, or is it the person who writes the CAD file to print the base, or is it the person who owns the printer and prints the product and possesses the final product? Sometimes authors will collaborate on these licensing agreements, or they will choose to license and copyright themselves, but these are questions that you need to ask before you start manufacturing and selling 3D printers. Some regulations we would like for HP to consider are to include disclaimers on what materials to use in your 3D printer. So HP would say this printer is meant to print plastic or metal or ceramic or a combination of the 3. And then professional indemnity cover is insurance for the CAD file writer. So if someone writes a CAD file and a person prints from it, and the object malfunctions or causes personal harm or injury, the professional indemnity cover protects the person who wrote the CAD file. So like I said, with the release of all the patents in 2013, we've seen some new lawsuits regarding patent infringement. 2 main players are 3D Systems and Stratasys, because 3D Systems, the founder is Chuck Hull, the inventor of 3D printing, who patented the stereolithography technology to operate a 3D printer. And Stratasys is one of the largest players in 3D printing. They had all the patents on the materials and the items used to build a 3D printer. So Stratasys sued Athenia, which is a new 3D printing company who is starting to sell to some of their customers, so for patent infringement. But we believe that Stratasys sued Athenia because they were afraid of their competition and they aimed to sue them out of business or push them into a royalty agreement. But we don't believe that this lawsuit poses a threat to Hewlett-Packard, because Hewlett-Packard is a large company and these type of lawsuits are targeted at small startups. So 3D Systems versus Formlabs. Formlabs raised a crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter and raised $2.9 million to build their SLA, or stereolithography, 3D desktop printer. And 3D Systems immediately sued them and Kickstarter for patent infringement. But the lawsuit was dropped at the end of last year because of the rapidly growing business environment for 3D printing. 2 companies that have been able to avoid lawsuits by focusing their business and media image on partnerships are Shapeways and Organovo. So Hasbro and Shapeways created a partnership where Hasbro released its intellectual property to create the super fan art product design based on their My Little Pony product line. So fans of the My Little Pony product line can create their own CAD files to design their own My Little Ponies and then upload them and sell them. L'Oreal made a research agreement with Organovo after Organovo released their success in building kidney cells through 3D printing. So L'Oreal partnered with Organovo so they could avoid animal testing in their cosmetic research. So our aim for HP is to start building these partnerships, first and foremost with FedEx, who has been facing recent media attention for their refusal to ship the CNC mill, which Josh will touch on right now.
Thank you, Taylor. As Taylor just said with the CNC mill, the point of that, their aim is only to produce guns. That is the sole purpose of them creating the printer. And FedEx and UPS have recently said that they want nothing to do with the shipping of these printers. They said it counters in and goes against what their ethical statement is about. And this is HP's ethical statement. And they said because of the possibility that it can do harm to their customers and the rest of society, that is why they will not have a part in the shipping of the 3D printers that have the ability to print the guns. What we would like to clarify though is that we're not talking about the ethics of gun ownership. We're trying to talk about our ethical dilemma is that should we sell this printer because one, it has the ability to print harmful objects such as guns, and it also is able to print objects that could be possibly counterfeited later on in the market. Potential problems. The potential problems that we face with the 3D printer, again, is mainly, or the two main problems, the production of guns that just aren't safe at this point. Like we said, the guns have the tendency to explode right in your hand, and we don't want that because one, it's bad for our customers, and it's bad for everybody surrounding. And two, the potential for counterfeits in the market. And our potential solutions. This is our stakeholder chart, and this just shows the people that would be affected by the 3D printer entering the market, and some of the pros and some of the cons. For you and the HP shareholders, the pros are obviously we're going to have an increase in sales, revenue, and hopefully profit in the end. And the cons, with anything, you're going to face some potential lawsuits and ethical entanglements, which is what we're trying to address right now. The consumer market. Hopefully we'll have potential growth into CAD markets. And what we're trying to do with the CAD market is set it up something like how iTunes was set up when the iPod was created, where you would go on, you could purchase some kind of credit, and then you would purchase a download for a single item. Where, say if it was a Lego, you would purchase the item for the Lego and you would get one download for that. The potential problem is that, one, you're going to have loss of in-store buyers, which with any emerging market and how technology is moving this way, everything's always going to adjust. With people or society, it's going to make our lives easier. It's the quality of life that we're trying to get out of the 3D printer. We're trying to make it easier on those stay-at-home moms that, like with the Lego story, they can't go out if they have 3 or 4 kids and go out just to buy Lego, but they can just go inside and go to their 3D printer and print out that extra Lego, just to have a nicer quality of life and not have to stress as much. The potential for misuse. The potential for misuse, like I said again, the possibility of printing guns or other harmful objects, that's the elephant in the room. We know that's going to happen, but we're going to try our best to do everything we can to make that as unlikely of an outcome as we can. And then for the counterfeit items, that's where, again, the CAD market comes in, where we're going to try to prevent people just from going and downloading other illegal CADs, and we'll try to structure it through the CAD market. The last thing I would like to emphasize is we feel the pros really outweigh the cons in this situation. And that's why Tim will take it from here and give you guys your recommendations.
Right, so now we're going to talk about the fun stuff, which is what you can do in the market to really give yourself the best possible chance. First of all, like Josh said, we really believe that you should enter this market. The pros of making a 3D printer far outweigh the cons. I mean, simply from the life-saving abilities of these printers, it would definitely outweigh even some of the more scary possibilities of it. But we can kind of take some steps to prevent some of those scary possibilities. So what we have here are 5 recommendations about what HP can do to really mitigate their risks. And number 1 is create this CAD community that we were talking about. And our vision for this would really be like an app store where HP maintains rigid control of each CAD. So how this would work would be whoever designs the CAD would submit it to HP. HP would either approve it or disapprove it, depending on whether they want to sell it or not. the person who puts it forward would specify a price if they want one at all, and then HP would take a cut of that price in exchange for promoting and keeping the CAD on the market. So this is really a symbiotic relationship between HP and the people who design the CADs, because the CADs people are going to have more exposure, and HP is going to have the ability to deliver it to them in a safe environment so that these CAD developers know that their product isn't going to go and someone's going to download it, and then that person's just going to pass it on to everyone else. And one of the ways we can address this is with timed access limits. And basically a timed access limit would be like if you rent a movie in streaming, where you'd have access to this CAD for a certain amount of time. You'd have that time to print the CAD, and after it you would lose access to it, so you could only make one copy of it. This kind of addresses the ethical issue of counterfeiting, because you basically only have one opportunity to make that given CAD. So second, we want strict terms of service and compliance with recommended usage statements. This protects us legally because we have an agreement with whoever buys a 3D printer of how they're going to use the printer. They're not going to use it for unlawful purposes. They're not going to use it to create, you know, like these plastic guns, like we mentioned, for example, or bombs or the cutoff service. But ethically, it's also important because we want to inform the people who buy our printers of the capabilities of the printer and what materials to put in it and so forth. So ethically, the information exchange between HP and the consumer is very important. 3, we want to shift the marketing focus from a gun creation approach to a small parts manufacturing approach. So my colleagues talked earlier about a company that creates 3D printing, just a printer that basically just makes guns, and that's how they market it. And that's fine for them. They can do that if they like. But as HP being a global company, we believe that to make this 3D printer like pretty much friendly to everyone, we need to take the focus off guns and put it on small parts manufacturing, like the desk parts, the screws, for example. That way, ethically, you know, we're protected because we're not making something that's potentially dangerous, while still reaping the benefits of making some technology that's really cool going forward. 4th, track supply purchases to spot suspicious activity. This is one that would probably need a little bit more of technology to develop, but it's certainly feasible. Once we know, for example, how much specific materials it takes to create a gun, HP can track who wants to buy that, since they will control the materials used in 3D printer. And say someone tried to do that and it was very clear of what they were doing, HP could shut down that sale, all with just a little bit of information. And then finally, number 5, for business-to-business sales, 2-person authorization features. So when a business buys a 3D printer, the employees would foreseeably be the ones that are going to use it. But an employee might go, for example, rogue and decide to create something on the 3D printer that they're really not supposed to. Maybe a disgruntled employee, someone recently fired, something of that nature. So the 2-person authorization feature would allow the company some security in the sense of their 3D printer would have to have 2 people clicking it, basically, in order to use it. And that way, you know, they're not going to have to worry about, you know, someone printing something that they're not supposed to, while at the same time, they also don't have to worry about someone using something for the wrong purposes that don't fit their values. So these are our 5 recommendations, and that concludes our presentation. We're probably going to have a seat now and take a drink of water and address your questions. Thank you for listening to us this afternoon.
Very good, thanks very much. I just have a couple of questions as we kind of get started. I guess my first question is, why do you foresee HP as the right company to sponsor, partner with, and champion this technology? How do you think it fits with our business?
We see HP really taking on this industry because of how they took on the 2D printing or the regular printing industry. That's what they were known for. That was their niche. And we feel that taking what they did back then and kind of emphasizing and pushing it towards the future, I really think that's why they're going to be successful in this market. They're really meant for it.
Okay, let's stay with that theme. Digital printing on a 2-dimensional paper substrate or some other 2-dimensional substrate has one set of customers. I think the customer base here is fundamentally different. So from a customer perspective, does it still work with HP's business in terms of what our customers and what our market position is going to be?
Well, I think that HP certainly needs to move forward in terms of growth. 2D printing isn't really going to go anywhere. Everyone who has a 2D printer pretty much has a 2D printer at this point. They just replace them. With the 3D printer, they have an opportunity, though it is a somewhat different market, but they can really grow with this market and gain revenue over time because it's just starting out. And they need to refocus their efforts because, as you guys will know, HP is not looking so good in terms of revenue lately. So what they need to focus on is something new and something that's going to grow with them, as opposed to things that really don't have much of a future.
Do you think the segment for customers here is retail in the context of individual or private users, or do you think it's business, corporate users, companies, manufacturers? Or
We were aiming for retail. The average price of a 3D printer is between
$600 to $5,000.
Yeah, so we were going more for an everyday printer like the HP 2D printer. So we want everyone to be able to afford this product. The cheapest product on the market is about $400, and it's aimed at everyday people. But it hasn't really hit that peak yet, or that right customer basis, and we would like to do that better than the current company.
Okay.
I have a question in regards to the cost, because just following Kevin's question about the customer base, I personally see this more of a business type of market instead of consumer, just because the cost is so high for the average consumer. What is the cost to make such a product, and what would be our return on investment?
Well, these 3D printers are, as you know, kind of a relatively new thing. The margins vary widely. There's no one yet who manufactures them on a scale to really get a very good sense of if it will be, 100% return on investment per print or 200%. It's unclear because we don't have a large manufacturer, and I think that's why it's important that HP takes the lead right now, is because all the players in this industry are very small. And like you said, they're mostly business to business at this point because the costs are prohibitively high. And there's certainly a market for that. But we think that someone needs to step in, and HP certainly has the resources to do so, and create a consumer-grade printer, because the current companies on the market simply don't have the resources to do so. One of the companies that Taylor mentioned in her legal that was kickstarted, and they made that printer for about $3 million. So HP certainly has much more than $3 million at their disposal to create a printer. And additionally, in terms of revenue over time, so maybe the best model for the 3D printing isn't to immediately sell each individual printer at an extremely high markup, but maybe sell it low enough and then make revenue off of the CADs and make revenue off of the materials. So that's also an approach that should definitely be considered, because like 2D printing, it's a very similar approach, and HP is very familiar with selling the printer sort of at a discount and then reaping the benefit off the materials and the associated complementary goods.
Okay, so is the vision that, and I think you're going to be restating this, but is the vision that every household, just as they have a computer, is going to have a printer?
At some point, yes. We expect.
Do you really think?
I mean, you have to think about what markets are growing. So think about the cell phone market, the switch from a flip phone to a smartphone. Not everyone jumped on that all at once. It was a very gradual movement where they're still selling flip phones. It's on its way out, they're free, but that's what we hope to see with the 3D printing market, a very long-term approach, to where not everyone's going to jump on it at once. The people who really want one and are really into technology will go after it, but obviously some people are going to be a little hesitant, want to save up their money, figure out a need for it. Just like, why do I need a smartphone that's hundreds of dollars more than my flip phone?
With that said, a phone is very small, and from a design element, that is a big object, and that's just not something that most homeowners are going to want to put in their kitchen, in their den. I mean, you have to think, where a home office, some home offices aren't that big, so you have to think, where are you going to put it? Like, where do y'all see people putting it? Because I think if you put it in the garage, then it's exposed to the elements. So realistically, where do you think people are going to put this in their homes?
Well, 3D printers, if you get a desktop one, it's similar to the size of a crock pot. It's about a cube.
Okay, so you're only talking about not what we saw there.
No. Oh, yeah, no.
Okay.
That's a business model.
We actually wanted to have HP be the first company to produce different sizes to appeal to more consumers. With this increase in demand and the consumer market, there's potential for many different shapes and sizes to appeal to many different kinds of people. And you have to understand we live in a world of millennials where you have a bunch of students who are graduating, starting their new lives, and who will be familiar with this type of technology, and more than likely will want to see it in their households or apartments in the near future. It's convenience, it's quick, it's easy. The millennials will love it.
It's showy.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, okay, I'm part of the older generation, so I have to get used to it. And where am I gonna build a piece of furniture to house it, or, you know, that'll probably be the next market, you know, build something to house the furniture. But also from the legal standpoint, you know, my concern is you sell to that commercial, you sell to businesses, you can better protect yourself because you sell to consumers and there's an accident, you know, they're going to sue you. They're going to sue us. So if there's a problem, I mean, that's assuming that they can print something or like the gun or something that's harmful. Whereas, and we can't really contract away that liability. I mean, you've given some suggestions, but realistically, it's very hard to do that. I mean, and ultimately, that is a cost. Like if y'all really, I don't know if there's really any case law out there. I mean, you mentioned a few cases, but it's hard for me to pick up where the courts are gonna, where their decisions are gonna fall. You know, who are they gonna hold accountable? Whereas if you sell to a business, and then the business sells the printer, or you know, then you have two. So I'm concerned. That worries me because I just don't think you can put some language in a legal contract and think you're protected.
Right. And ultimately, I can see where your concern lies, and I'm sure it's within all of you. But at the same time, you have to look at the fact that people can make household bombs out of fertilizer and Mentos. You know, there's many different products on the market that are out there that, you know, can be dangerous and harmful to people and still, you know, sell and do well in the market and or just as successful. And you can search your web and get these types of things immediately. However, we aren't trying to market the fact that, you know, these things are likely to occur and they're going to happen because, well, just like I said, with anything on the market, there's potential for harm and there's that liability. And so I think with a great marketing team and having the proper advertisement where people can see the quick, easy, and convenience of our product is going to stick in their heads better than us trying to make it, it's not a dangerous product. And so, Tim, did you have something that you wanted to say?
Are you guys familiar with the term of jailbreaking with a phone? Okay, so jailbreaking is...
Oh wait, I take it back. Yeah, I did hear that term from my daughter, yes.
Okay.
But I am not. I did not.
Okay, well, I'll explain for you. So, when you have a phone and you want to go and do things that are not approved by Apple, you have to jailbreak your phone. And basically what that does is it waives all liability from Apple. And with the CAD community, we want to do something similar. If they want to download an app or a CAD that is not endorsed by HP, for example, a gun, they would have to break their 3D printer. So in terms of legality, that protects you very well because in the contract that they sign, they're not going to go jailbreak it. They're only going to download things from the HP approved market. So let's say they really do have a desire to make something dangerous, which would probably not be your average consumer. This would probably be the vast minority of the people who buy a 3D printer. They would have to jailbreak their 3D printer and thus waive all liability from HP to create such a product. HP would only keep the printer under its umbrella if they specifically use the HP CAD market.
Okay. Maybe a generational question, so I guess I'll just leave that aside as I think of it. One of the things that we're concerned about when we mentioned counterfeiting, obviously a clear risk and a conflict of interest in counterfeiting by virtue of trademark and intellectual property laws, at least in the United States, is typically something which there are relatively strong legal boundaries against. However, outside of the United States, that's arguably less so. So HP operates in tens and many countries around the world. Is what it would be possibly the restrictions for us to make or manufacture this product outside the United States and consequently have the product enter markets where counterfeiting is much more prevalent and there are fewer legal restrictions.
So So, I mean, definitely we want to keep with the cultural, the ethical boundaries of each culture. So, for example, China has a much more relaxed view of intellectual property. So maybe our CAD community structure in China would be slightly different, whereas you wouldn't have maybe necessarily as rigid timed access limits. Maybe we would work with some cultural advisors in China to decide maybe a little bit different way to structure our CAD market so that it would fit better within what they would view would be an acceptable CAD market, as to not sort of strangle them and make them adopt a Western approach to intellectual property. So taking a regional hub approach in terms of the CAD community would be very important to make sure that everyone feels very at home with having the HP printer be their 3D printer. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Okay.
I have one more. What is it to stop? I understand the whole CAD shop kind of like actions, but what is to stop a designer creating their own CAD file? Because that's very much possible, and there are plenty of people who know CAD anyways, and there are plenty of other programs that are not just CAD, but that also create such files that can be printed.
Like we said, we are trying to enter the market so that if we're the first ones, we can partner with all those big brands. If a brand like Coach wants to produce purses and have a design for a purse, maybe we can have a partnership with them, so only their CADs can be with HP. So if Apple gets into the industry and you're a huge fan of Coach and you bought an Apple 3D printer, you wouldn't be able to print the Coach bag from the 3D printer. You would only be able to print it from the CAD market at HP.
I understand that, but I'm asking more of a designer designs their own design.
Like an individual? Or?
Yes, the individual designing, not necessarily a Coach bag or not necessarily a Lego part, which is also patent. I'm talking about just designing your own file. How would that be? How would they be stopped of printing their own file?
They could print their own on their own device if they had the technological know-how of creating a CAD. They wouldn't be able to use the if HP, for example, created a CAD design program, they wouldn't be able to use that to do it because that would have to be approved on the HP store. They also wouldn't be able to share it with anyone else, at least effectively. And if they did share it with someone else, then the other people who they shared it with would basically be jailbreaking their 3D printers, so that they wouldn't be under the HP umbrella anymore. They wouldn't be able to use the HP store. So the consequences of sort of creating your own CAD file, you can create it for your own. We certainly don't want to stifle creativity, but sharing it would be fairly problematic because the consequences of doing so without going through an HP approval process would be fairly difficult.
And just to add to what Tim said, we plan on taking a percentage of any CAD design that is a part of the HP marketplace for us. So no matter if it's a new designer, a big-time designer, HP ultimately is going to charge you to be a part of our marketplace regardless of who is in it. So as Tim said, they can upload it and do it at their own risk, but ultimately we are still profiting no matter who decides to put their CAD design a part of the marketplace, and if they want to print the materials, they're going to be charged through us as well, which is ultimately going to help us with generating revenues.
Yeah, ideally, if the market were to work at the highest level, you'll be connected to the market, like you're connected to the iCloud. And the market has communications with your printer. So you can't print something that's not from the market. That's why we want to create the HP brand of the CAD market. So you upload it to the market so you can print it, so you can share it, so you can sell it. And then HP would review every CAD that is submitted to the market to make sure it's not counterfeit, make sure it's not dangerous. So I feel like that would answer your question.
Yeah, because it wasn't very clear that there was that boundary put in.
Yeah.
Kind of like the 2D printing where you create your own, you just press print, and it's not about sharing. It's just you just created a clown face and you wanted to print it, so you print it right on the spot.
Yeah, the printer has to be connected to something, and we want it to be connected to the market.
Got it.
So how much does it cost to build one? Assuming, and who's building that? Is that taking place in the United States? And what is the actual profit? Like, what does it cost to build, and what is the profit going to be?
For each individual printer, or to plan to develop it?
Well, for the printers, I mean, that number, what, 5.2 billion in 2020? So
Yeah.
if that's what the market is, you know, how much are these, like what do they cost to build? Assuming they're being built in the United States, overseas, and then what are we making? What is the company going to make off each one? Y'all know?
Well, to be honest with you, we have conducted extensive research, and this is still fairly new.
I don't think any companies are comfortable publishing their records of how much they're spending on this because they haven't figured out the most efficient way to spend their money and create the printers. The only solid number that we have to start into the business was the 2.9 million, and that created enough of a threat for a hotshot company to sue Formlabs. So we don't have an exact number at the moment because there is no exact number at the moment.
We can reasonably assume that these printers cost less than $600 to make, otherwise you wouldn't make a profit selling them. But like we said earlier with the razor blade approach, whatever the cost it is to produce them, we probably wouldn't sell them for much more than that because we want them to be widely accessible to every consumer. And then we want to make most of the money off of the complementary goods, such as the CAD percentages and also the materials that they use to print it. Just like your ink printer that you guys currently make right now, it'd be very, very similar to that. So you guys should feel right at home.
I just have one more question. In some of the enabling technologies, you mentioned them originally. So, for example, materials, compatible materials that can be form, shaped, cause the flow, and so forth. Thermoplastics, an example. Are there other enabling materials or components that could be a challenge in terms of limiting or inhibiting the capability of what the technology offers?
So one of the most interesting applications of these printers, right now a lot of these printers print either plastic, resin, ceramic, and only one of them. But to make them truly useful and well, amazing is if they could use multiple materials at once to create objects, because very few objects are simply one uniform material. Most things come from a variety of different things. So that's where we see the technology going, is creating a printer that can not only use plastic or resin or ceramic, but also, exactly, incorporate metal, incorporate other materials like wood into design so that can create these very, very complex products with different materials.
Just recently, Hershey had the pleasure of entering the 3D market by publishing its first 3D chocolate. So, for chocolate lovers in the
Allison?
No, it's interesting.
I know you guys have had a long day, so we apologize.
Almost done.
Okay.
I guess I have one more. So, just listening to the presentation, is it more of an ethical concern or risk, or is it really a legal risk? Because I think this is more a liability in terms of the legal implications.
Well, I think one of the big problems with 3D
Because I don't have trouble with the ethics. Is if it's just the gun, you know, I think we can all make the argument that they're going to, you know, people sell guns.
I think that your questions that you asked us really highlighted that it is an ethical issue about what about the shareholders? How much money are we going to get from that? What about the intellectual property? How are we going to decide who owns what? How are we going to act on that?
Yeah, and guns are kind of the hot topic of the day because that's what's in the news, is these dangerous sort of guns. But really where we see these heading in the future is IP, intellectual property. Because as technology advances, there's going to be more sophisticated ways to download these CADs. Maybe they're dangerous CADs, maybe they're counterfeit CADs. So as a Fortune 500 company, HP certainly doesn't want to create something that endorses counterfeit materials because it's a significant, at least PR liability with other companies. But ethically, it's not right to steal other people's work, which is what we think is really nice about the CAD market. It's sort of like with music, how it was very highly pirated before basically iTunes stepped in to store some order to the digital media market. That's kind of where we see the 3D printing. There's not a lot of order in it right now. And it's kind of the ethical wild, wild west in terms of technology. But we think with a structured market that really any consumer can use, that sort of order is gonna do great things for the 3D printing market, and it's gonna make a lot more people comfortable with the idea of 3D printing, because I think a lot of people are a little bit uncomfortable with some of its capabilities right now.
I'm sure HP is concerned with the legal issues because printers, 2D printers are not really a big danger to society right now. So yeah, that's going to bring up some concerns, but we really want HP to think about what is the 3D printing market going to do to society, and how is that going to reflect back on HP and its shareholders. So is this industry right for HP? Yes, because you're professionals at making printers. You're the perfect candidate to do 3D printing. So how is society's reflection going to affect the profit and affect the legal issues? So it's, does society approve? And then if society approves, that's going to help you and your shareholders, because those are your two most important ethical issues right there, is how, like, what's going to happen.
And I just want to add something to that. Seeing as though we have already been pretty successful with the 2D printing industry, you have to understand that on a daily basis, people are getting paper cuts. And I don't know how many people have had this issue. And now they're at fault when you're printing your documents and you accidentally slip, a tiny piece of your finger, or sometimes even a big part of your hand. However, that is at the fault of the consumer ultimately, because they maybe mishandled the paper wrong, or and it's not the type of thing where they're taking your printer and jamming their hands in it, or forcefully harming themselves. And so I bring up this issue because here, you're still selling a product that could potentially be harmful. However, it's been successful because people understand the proper way to use a printer to keep from cutting themselves whenever they're conducting their work, or printing from a printer, whatever the document that they're printing may be. With a 3D printing machine, we want to make sure to express exactly how the machine is supposed to be used, illuminate the good from it, and the products that people can benefit from in their own home, in their business, whatever it may be, and go from there. Hold the consumer liable for if they choose to harm themselves or other people around them, just if they took the paper from a 2D printer and cut somebody with it. There's a lot of issues there, and that is why I believe it's ultimately an ethical issue, because we've already been in this market already, and we know the issues at hand.
Okay, any other questions? Very interesting topic. Very interesting topic for a lot of reasons. I'll talk about it in a minute. First of all, I thought you guys reflected a lot of confidence in the way you sort of did the give and take during Q&A. Because Q&A can be tougher depending on how your judges are engaged. I thought you guys did a really good job of engaging with us and kind of talking through some of the issues and the challenges. I work in R&D in medical devices, so you've touched on technology, which fortunately, unfortunately for you, I actually know something about. And I see an enormous opportunity in this technology in prototyping, because we are constantly trying to make something for the first time, and it's a very challenging thing to do with conventional technology. You can make it in terms of an image, or you can make it even in terms of a graphic. And we have a person that's what they do on our team, is they do graphical imaging of trying to represent prototypes, which otherwise are very hard for us to embody. The question about the materials piece, I do not see this technology running different materials, particularly metals and fabrics. It's just not set up that way. I see those. However, I see the capability that it has being combined with other things to be able to make materials or systems that have multiple components in them. That to me makes probably a lot more sense to how to realize that objective. I unfortunately also learned a lot about printing in the past life. So digital printing, in terms of its capability I would never think of that technology being leveraged to do something like this. I'm not saying anything you're saying is wrong. I just think it's misnamed. I don't think it's digital printing. I think it's digital prototyping. But that's me listening to what y'all are talking about. Because obviously you're using technology that evolved from the printing industry, particularly digital printing, which is advanced technologies of lithographic, flexo, and gravure printing, which otherwise are the older, obsolete technologies. One of the things that's very challenging in printing is printing on three-dimensional substrates. In the most immediate example you may all be familiar with, you see it every day when you go to the grocery store, it's diapers, printing on diapers. It is something that the industry has been working to try to improve on and do more complexity over the last 10, 15 years, but it is most meat and potatoes example you see every day of printing. So really good topic. I thought you guys did a great job of balancing financial, intellectual, financial, legal, and ethical. I really like the part of the counterfeiting, recognizing that as a challenge, and I thought you guys did a good job of kind of considering how that liability would evolve. You guys are another group today that has reminded me about how old I am. I love the quote. I love the quote. We live in a world of millennials. And I was like, I surrender. I've got to do that because I have two of them at home, and that was good because it is in a sense this is a probably disruptive technology in contrast to what we in R&D call incremental technologies or simply advancing technologies. I think this is going to potentially disruptive. It's got the hallmarks because first of all it looks kind of clumsy starting out. You're really not sure how you're going to use it. And those are the earmarks of disruptive technologies. So if I did nothing else but learn about the technology today, I thought you guys did a good job complementing that with what we talked about. Okay.
Thank you. I thought y'all did a very good job. I'm going to give you some practical pointers, but I do want to say of all the teams I saw today, your team did not gloss over the legal implications. I thought you addressed them. And I thought you did it. No, because I think all the other teams I saw today, I think they just kind of glossed over it, and the law can be very tricky and, trying to read regulations and like I said, I think they glossed over it. And I think y'all you did a very good job of addressing it, and I thought that was a very strong suit.
Thank you.
So I did like the way you divvied up the topics. I think it's nice when you have, at least we have 4, each person speaks on a topic. I think that's very beneficial. And I thought you each did a very good job, and certainly you've done your research. And I like the way, kind of the banter, the interaction, you kind of kicked it off, and because sometimes you can lose your audience, and so it's nice to be personal and kind of kick it off or throw it to the next person. So I thought the interaction between the team members was very good. Now, practically speaking, and this happened also earlier today, and I think it will never happen to you again. Anytime you use technology, and this has happened to me, you have to go in the day before, maybe the week before, an hour before, and you have to test the technology. And I never do a presentation without in the back of my mind thinking, the power is going to go out, and like I told another group, you can't rely upon electricity, the PowerPoint, you have to have the can opener. So just be prepared that it's not going to work. And I think if you couldn't have done the PowerPoint, I think y'all would have been fine. I can't say that about everybody. I don't think it was really a crutch for y'all, but at the same time, make sure, have someone come out here and see what we're seeing, because I really couldn't see it. Y'all were standing in front of the PowerPoint, so when you do this again, make sure that everybody here can see the PowerPoint and no one's standing in front of it. And that's just things that you learn. And also, in terms of where you stood, there wasn't a lot of, I don't like a lot of distraction. Who's ever speaking, I really want to hear what they have to say. I don't like the speaker to be interrupted. Somebody else kind of, moving around, fidgeting. So y'all did a good job. Y'all were very good, very professional. You certainly dressed the part, which I appreciate. So a lot of the little things you did very well. And I thought you did really well in the Q&A session, because you never know, one of us is going to come out of left field. And, so y'all looked good. You looked poised and didn't seem shocked, and didn't seem upset that maybe we're not going to buy one. But
I understand.
I kind of feel like, that show, what is it, Sharks or whatever?
Sharks Tank.
Yeah, I feel like, should I buy this? Do I want to invest in this? So it's an interesting topic. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had a couple of suggestions if you guys have the energy to do this again. So Allison makes a real good point. One thing you may consider, I'm not suggesting this is a good idea. I work in R&D, I have bad ideas every day. But is you may just try, whoever is talking, that's the person standing. You guys have a good rapport, and you obviously have the trust and the camaraderie and the give and take as a team to know, okay, this is the right person for this topic, or I'm going to talk on this and I'm going to hear this other person. I thought that was pretty effective. definitely keep in front of you legal, ethical, financial. Don't let one dominate the other. That sometimes can be, we've seen that throughout the day-to-day. And that's particularly challenging when you've got a complex topic that folks are not intimately or inherently familiar with. Again, just the word printing threw me off right away. It wasn't until I saw the picture that I understood we're talking about what to me I would call a prototyping machine. But you guys moved through that really well, and you really gave good consideration to the legal and the ethical, which reflects your consideration and commitment to what you're trying to do here.
And I'll just chime in on, I'm actually familiar with 3D printing because of my husband. He's a designer, and I visit his company all the time, and I'm very interested in this. I don't believe that this is yet to be in a consumer field just because of all the occasions, but I thought you handled yourself great because it's a very tough topic, and it's breaking through, but very slowly. And I would love to have one, but it's not one of those things that I must have it. I think it will be a while before I say I must have it. It's kind of, right now I just find it as being cool, and I'd like to have it, but it's not a necessity. Something about, I thought the pointers about the presentations were great, and something to add is to remove your timer, because I think that threw you off at the beginning. In a sense of how your presentation PowerPoint was set up with a timer. Very often it advances and then it just kind of throws you off, and so I would suggest just removing it altogether, especially because you have a clicker.
We tried.
There wasn't a timer on it at any of the 4 to 10 times that we practiced.
Sometimes it's in a template, not necessarily in a presentation.
Okay.
So it's just a back door, but I would definitely remove it.
We agree.
We tried.
We wholeheartedly agree.
We turned it off. We turned it to 10 minutes and turned it off, and nothing worked. I don't know what happened.
It's unfortunate, but I've had it happen to me a while back, so I learned the lesson the same way. But it's through the template. It's not even through your own, whatever you've been at in the presentation.
Good pointer.
And something that I just suggesting that it would be nice to have kind of the roles laid out at the beginning, maybe even putting on the slide of who we are and who you are, in a sense of presentation, just to help us kind of in that point and keeping us on the know of who we're supposed to be from the very get-go and not just saying it.
Okay.
And that's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Good luck to you.
Do you want your voice back?
Yeah.
Please return those to their rightful owners.
We're going to be in ethical trouble.
Thank you all for
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys so much.